Hello, and welcome back to Map for a New Motherhood. I'm here today with Karen Brody. Karen Brody has taught the art of deep rest to thousands of women around the world and trained women to teach others in the art of rest through a life-changing and life-saving yogic sleep tool called Yoga Nidra meditation. She has taught at the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health and many locations around the world. Karen is the author of the only book for women on Yoga Nidra, called Daring to Rest, Reclaim Your Power with Yoga Nidra Rest Meditation. She's a mother of two boys, Jacob, who is 21, and Aiden, who is 20. After a complete breakdown, burnout, mothering her one son with learning differences, she made a strong commitment to move through mothering with deep rest, and the positive effects led her to teaching 40-day deep rest Yoga Nidra programs to mothers for many years. Welcome, Karen. I'm so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. And I would love to begin by just how you came into this work. It sounds like it was through your mothering experience, but when did you discover Yoga Nidra?
Yeah, I discovered it by accident. I was actually not thinking about rest at all. I was busy. I was a mom. My kids at the time were in preschool. So I guess they were around ages 2.5, and the other one was 4.
Uh-huh.
And I was really looking for like a bendy stretchy yoga class to take off the postpartum weight. I was finally like had a morning that I was starting to work again, but I was like looking to take a little me time. And was eyeing this yoga studio that was across the street from their preschool. And then I decided to sign up one day. And when I walked in, I was going to sign up again for like some bendy, stretchy yoga class to lose some weight,
Yeah.
maybe, just connect back to yoga. I hadn't done yoga in a long time. I wasn't a big yogini at all. I still am not really. But I heard this woman's voice, a very soft, gentle voice, guiding people in what sounded like guided meditation. And when I peeked around the corner and I looked into the room, there were 25 women laying down with pillows and blankets and, eye pillows over their eyes, looking like they were taking the best nap of their lives.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want what they got. I don't know what that is, but I sensed in my body that I needed a really deep, long nap.
Yeah.
And I did question, like, am I going to really pay money to take a nap every
Right.
Friday? Like this class met at noon on Friday, which was a perfect time because I picked my sons up right after. But I thought, oh gosh, why would I could just lay on my couch and rest, if
Yeah.
this is what this is all about. And they told me this is the sleep of the yogi. This is yoga nidra. It's not yoga. It's yogic, because it's based on this idea that our body is more than just the physical body. There's layers that we are, layers of our being,
Yeah.
that we don't often tap into and we don't see and we don't tend to and bring awareness to. And so when you're lying down in yoga nidra, it is a guided sleep-based meditation practice, but you're guided into deeper and deeper sleep brainwaves and even to a fourth state of consciousness, which is this supremely relaxing state where you're powered down, your thoughts are at zero, and you really can reboot and take the deepest nap of your life, I believe. And so I saw this rest practice and I realized I'm making my boys, like really making it very clear in our home that my boys would rest every day. After
Uh-huh.
their preschool, we went home, they went for a nap. Even if I had one son who did not like to nap, I said, that's okay, you can lay in your bed and rest. And I was so strict about their rest, but I wasn't about my own. So I would get really busy, like most moms. When they would rest, I would get everything done. And so Yoga Nidra was like my mommy nap. And once I started taking it, I thought, wow, where has this been my whole life? And why don't other mothers know about this?
Yeah.
Because It's so powerful, and just a small bit of it, 45 minutes can feel like 3 hours of sleep in your body. And that for me as a mom, that's actually what sold me to sign up. I was like,
Right,
"Okay, I'll sign up." And then there was so much more that I
right.
got from it.
Yeah, I mean, what mom doesn't need an excuse to lie down and do nothing, right? And what mom doesn't need that deep replenishment?
Yeah, I think we're talking about it more and more now. There's more talk about rest, which is wonderful. But when, my boys are now 20 and 21. So when
Yeah,
they were 2 and 4, that was not talked about at all, taking a
yeah,
rest.
yeah,
There were no, uh, was no conversation around that. It was still seen as rest is weak, rest is lazy, rest is unproductive.
yeah. And so, how did you come into working with moms and sharing the message of Yoga Nidra?
Well, I personally practiced for a while, and then I got to a point where um, I had actually been practicing, and then life is life. And you know how the way where, you have uh, a great diet going or a health routine going, you're eating the right foods, everything. And then suddenly you're not eating the right foods.
Right,
And
right.
suddenly you're like, wait a minute, but I really felt good when I was having, green juices or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
I probably we went through a very stressful couple of years where we moved overseas and we moved back suddenly, and my husband lost his work, and it was really like just one thing after the other, and I forgot about practicing yoga nidra. And then life became life, which is my oldest son, as you mentioned in the introduction, he has severe learning differences. He's severely dyslexic,
Mm,
and you know, there was just so much energy that needed to go into his not only schooling, but just protecting his light,
yeah.
helping to keep his light on.
Mm,
And so I was exhausted, and we had decided he needed a special school. We were suing the school district, which was something way out of our
wow.
paradigm,
Yeah.
to sue the school district for his needs. And we got to a place where uh, I just was like, I just want to eat, pray, love it from my life. I want to leave. I've got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I can't take one more ounce of pressure. My husband traveled about 5 months of the year, so I was alone with the kids a
Mm,
lot.
yeah.
Um, and it was hard. My son was in a very dark place,
Yeah.
was being bullied, was
Mhm.
just horrible things as a parent to have to hold in that moment. and
Yes.
and so I just one day my husband came home, I just handed the kids to him and I said, "That's it. I'm going to get in the car and go somewhere. I don't know where I'm going." And that was my eat, pray, love moment. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
go to Bali, but I could get in the minivan. And I got in
Right. Good for
I
you.
got in the minivan. I mean, that was like actually that became for many years my rest cave, because as a mom, you're in your
Mm,
got a lot taking your
yeah.
kids places.
Right.
And that became, I realized I had to chuck perfect and just, okay, if I'm in my van a lot, I've got to rest in my van. When I drop the kids off someplace, that's where I rest. But at the
Mm,
time when I handed the kids to my husband, I just said, I don't know when I'm coming back. I don't know. I really didn't know if I was coming back. I felt that
yeah.
down. I thought I might go to West Virginia. We lived in Washington, D.C. I was thinking, maybe I'm just going to drive to West Virginia, stay somewhere. Well, there was a really raging thunderstorm, and I ended up making it like to the edge of our neighborhood. And I just, because I could barely see, there was no visibility. I sat in a park, and I sat in the minivan at the edge of the park,
Hmm.
and I just broke down. And after I screamed and wailed and, did my moment of like clearing the river, having to, really go to the depths of like, I feel horrible
Yeah.
right now on every level. Uh, I realized, like, I closed my eyes and it was just really quiet in my minivan. And I realized I hadn't had quiet in a really long time, and I hadn't been silent, and I forgot about deep rest, which
Yeah.
I had loved so much when the boys were 2 and 4, and now my son was nearly 10.
Wow.
So I just like had oh my gosh, yoga nidra. Right. I got to do, Whoa. So I went home. I told my husband, I'm practicing yoga nidra. I had one tape of a 20-minute yoga nidra from my teacher who I used to go to on
Mhm,
Fridays. I said, I have this one tape. I'm going to do it every day. And I thought I was going to do it for a year. Turned out I did it for 40 days.
mhm.
I was counting each day, but I wasn't thinking I'm going to go to 40.
Yeah.
Just at 40 days, I felt like a whole new woman. I felt like a well-rested woman in a
Wow.
way that honestly, I just didn't even think was possible at that point.
Yeah.
And so I was very curious. And I was curious not only for myself, because when I met the lawyer that was helping us sue the school district, she asked me if I had a facelift after the 40 days. And I
Wow.
realized, okay, that was deep rest. I didn't have a facelift. I was just clear. And I went into the school district and I spoke so clearly and eloquently when I couldn't even string a sentence together. I was so exhausted
Yeah.
before these 40 days. And my
Mm.
skin was horrible and everything was clear in 40 days. And I
Oh,
went, gosh, I
incredible.
want everyone on the planet, every mother on the planet to have this. So I went and got trained a few months later, and I had my first yoga nidra teacher training.
Mhm.
And then I started teaching 40-day, what I called nap quest for moms. They were like, because I think I see yoga nidra as napping, rest,
Yeah.
and a vision quest. It's
Yes.
really a
I
deep
love that.
transformational type of sleep
Yeah.
that has the opportunity to uproot all the pre-programming that keeps us exhausted in
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
And so there's both, and it depends where you are in your life. Sometimes, like for me, when my kids were 2 and 4, it was rest. It
Right.
was rest.
Yeah.
There other things grew from the rest. I didn't realize it at the time, but primarily I just to stop going through stop signs like I was a drunk driver. Like, I'd turn the corner and I'd go over curbs. I was so tired.
Yeah.
And that was what yoga nidra did for me. And then I realized this is really transformational sleep. And I want every mother on the planet to have this form of sleep. It's so simple. You can even do it if you're sitting in a chair while you're breastfeeding. It's very easy to plug
Mm.
in, to
Yeah.
listen to it. The baby gets the nectar of rest, and you get the nectar of rest. And your children always get the nectar of rest if you're rested, if
Right.
you're committed to it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a practice that I believe every mom should have.
Absolutely. Yeah. I discovered it during my second pregnancy through, I think through you. Somehow I got on your mailing list and that's how I discovered it. And I mean it was just such a game changer for me, especially as a midwife and a mother and being sleep deprived on both ends, you know. But I also, the other thing aside from that deep rest that I love so much is the fact that it's transformational. So I wonder if you can speak a little bit about why it's transformational and yeah, and how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the deep rest, rest is wonderful. I mean, if you can get deep sleep, which most of us don't, most of us are taking medications that interfere with going into deep sleep, or we're not taking medication, but our mind is just so active.
Yeah.
So, we're not getting rest. Let's just put it that way. It's very, but then the transformational piece in yoga nidra, unlike conventional sleep that takes you into deep sleep, brainwaves, if you're lucky, you go into deep sleep.
Yeah.
Yoga Nidra takes you to a fourth state of consciousness known as Turiya, that is a place of supreme relaxation. It's where all your organs can completely reboot. It's also a process. It's a series of techniques that, like a structure, that take you to a state where more and more your ego mind falls back, and you
Mm,
could go into more of a cosmic mind. And what that helps with, and as you do this, your thoughts go less and less, which is what happens when you go into deep sleep. The thoughts go less and less and less, and this is why deep sleep can be very restorative. But when you go to a place of the fourth state of consciousness, you basically are like a clean slate, and your subconscious mind is very open. It's very fertile, and it's open to intentions, suggestions, planting new seeds in your life. So, for example, if you felt unworthy your whole life, let's just say worthiness was an issue, suddenly in Yoga Nidra, you fall into this deep state of supreme relaxation that you can plant a new seed. And we do this sometimes through intention in Yoga Nidra, but even without intention, in Yoga Nidra, when you go into such a supreme state of relaxation, when the subconscious mind is very open, all of the pre-programming that really keeps us exhausted,
Right.
oh, you're no good, you can't do that, no, you can't do that, you know suddenly it gets really quiet and we get really clear, and we're pointed toward our essential self more and more, and our essential self is love and light and presence and all of these things that we can't easily access when our ego mind is telling us, no, you're no good, no, whatever it is. And so there is this opportunity to reboot ourselves and I believe live a new story, tell a new story.
Yeah.
We think that, and this is even in birth, I found it, I've worked with a lot of pregnant women and, you know, oh, my mom had a C-section, my sister had a C-section, therefore I'll have a C-section. Well,
Mm,
C-section isn't necessarily bad, but to a lot of us have the pre-programming that, oh, my family had depression, therefore eh, I'm depressed.
right.
Now, there is depression that is chemical and needs medication, of
Mm,
course, but then there are situational depression and there's ancestral handed down these stories.
yeah.
And in Yoga Nidra, we go to such a pure place of presence where we can get away from those stories for a moment. We can stop for a moment. It's like affirmations are great, except the problem is our ego mind doubts
Mm,
everything.
right. Right.
So I am worthy, and we can stare into the
Sure.
mirror a gazillion times and say these affirmations, and they might make us feel better for the moment, but to really be able um, to have these transformational shifts, ego mind's got to fall back. And in Yoga Nidra, what I love is it does this so gently. It's through rest. We don't have to go to a therapist for 1,000 hours for the rest of our lives. I'm not saying therapy isn't good and
Yeah.
can't be helpful alongside of Yoga Nidra.
Right.
Many therapists actually teach Yoga Nidra because they
Mm,
know their clients actually they take leaps and bounds once they rest in this transformational way.
yeah. Yeah, and I think particularly for mothers, this transformational piece is so it's such a place of power because here we are as the nurturers of the next generation, and if we're doing this transformational deep work of deprogramming ourselves from these old stories we don't have to pass that on to our children, and to be able to do that through rest is just such a gift.
Well, this is why I thought, why don't moms know about this?
Right.
Because to do this through rest, and yes, exactly. This, if you're, let's just say, and for many of us, it's hard to rest for ourselves. Well, start by resting for your children. They deserve a well rested mother. And you modeling rest in the home doesn't mean they're definitely going to be champion sleepers or fall in love with rest like you, but you're setting a tone in the house that is honestly, a rested family is priceless right now. And if the mama is rested, I believe rested and a well rested woman and a well rested mother is really an archetype. It's a woman that's committed to feeding herself this deep nectar of rest.
Hmm.
She isn't perfectly rested every moment. We have life is life, right? But rest helps us show up in the world. And I'm telling you, for my children and for my son who had severe learning differences, and still to this day, I mean, he's in college, which is a miracle, but he tests in the 2 percentile for reading and writing.
Mm,
I mean, how do you show up? How frightening for a mom to like, what's he going to do in the world? How's he going to be? And
right.
yet I was able to show up fully present for that experience more and more by having this rest buddy with me to help me rest and help me be really clear that, all the things, not to take on some of the things that he was necessarily moving through, but to be present for it and to be there for it. Let him feel his sad feelings if that was
Mhm.
what was coming up,
Yeah,
not to try to make it all better if it wasn't, but to be really present to it all. I'm telling you, rest helped me with all of it. And to me, it's the foundation. You build the house, and then you can operate in life if your foundation is more solid, and
right.
rest is part of that foundation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think rest also, not that we want to do rest to get something out of it or to be more productive, but I think it also fuels our creativity. And I know you had a really amazing project that came to you from the Yoga Nidra, which was a play. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, yeah, sure. It's interesting because, right, uh, rest to be more productive, I think is, let's get away from that paradigm. That's a capitalist paradigm that I don't
Yeah,
believe really serves us. But does rest actually fuel creativity, fuel ideas, insights, help us align more with our soul purpose? Absolutely. And I believe for me, and I wouldn't have even identified this the first year of how rest was really helping me in a project I was involved with. I started a project of interviewing 118 women about their birth experiences because I was alarmed that so many women who had access to lots of resources and power. They were having ordinary bad birth experiences. And I was like, what's going on? And I started interviewing women, and I thought I was writing a book about it. And nothing was clicking, nothing was working. I thought, yeah, these stories are going to be used, but how?
yeah,
And I thought I was writing a book. And then when I laid down to practice yoga nidra that first year when my kids were at preschool, I just began to get all these insights. And one of the insights was that it's not a book, it's a play, which
mm,
seemed crazy at the time because I never written a play. I'd written a book before, so I thought it has to be a book.
yeah,
No, in my yoga nidra, and this is what yoga nidra is so good at, and why I think every woman, and particularly mother on the planet, needs to be practicing it, because it's like the wild woman archetype. Clarissa Pinkola says we need to be fed back our intuition. We need to claim our intuition, and this is for birthing a baby, for being a mother, for
yeah,
whatever it is, for writing a book, for we birth so many things more than babies, so women have a lot of births in them, right? And
yeah.
so I was really pregnant with these 818 stories. Uh,
Mm,
and the question was really like, okay, what's this birth going to look like? And that came to me through rest. I began to have what I now call, and in the Daring to Rest method, we call soul whispers, the deep insights, the messages from our inner world, from the underworld, that when we're so busy, we can't hear. When we slow down, we can start to hear them.
yeah,
And so I just heard, like, this is a play. And that was crazy. And I love crazy personally. My
right.
husband doesn't always like crazy. And so he was like, you've never written a play. How are you going to write a play? And
Mm,
so, of course, because what happens is once you align with where you're going, things happen. And my neighbor happened to be mowing his lawn one day, and I was talking to him, telling him I may write a play. And he said, "Oh, I'm on the board of this playwright house or something."
wow.
I didn't even know that world. And he
Yeah,
introduced me, and no, not through any contacts I wouldn't have been able to find or research at some point, but I didn't know where to start. And he helped me to find a dramaturg and a group of people that, with a dramaturg, that I workshop this play called Birth. And it's now been it's been performed around the world in many, many countries, many continents, probably all continents except a few, and translated into 4 languages, raised over $1 million to improve maternity care.
wow.
I'm really proud about that, because
Yes, I didn't know that.
it was clearly a theater for social change piece, like the vagina monologues.
Right.
It was called the Vagina Monologues for Childbirth by Dr. Christina Northrup, because when she
Ah,
saw it, I had invited her and I thought, oh, will she come? And oh, yeah, she came and spoke on our after panel in New York City when we had our debut weekend. And I, I was like, yeah, this is the Vagina Monologues for Childbirth. This is really about having, one of the things, you can give statistics all you want about childbirth, but usually change doesn't happen until people feel something. They have a visceral experience. So
Yeah.
the play was an invitation for communities to start talking about the realities of birth in their community by giving them a visceral feeling of these stories. I didn't do all 118. In fact, through Yoga Nidra, through rest, I started being informed of which stories I was going to use. Their
Uh-huh.
voices started coming really clearly through me.
Yeah.
And actually, I'd finish my yoga nidra session, get my boys. We usually went to the park for 30 minutes and then went down for a nap. And when on the way to the park, I would literally, we'd get to the park, I'd keep them strapped in and open my glove compartment, take some napkins out and start writing notes for this play that was just coming out of me. And again, through rest,
Yeah.
born through rest.
Yeah. Wow. Incredible. Yeah, I saw the
And
play in Miami and I just love the variety of stories, as a midwife seeing so many births and then getting to go and watch a play about it was really, really a treat. Yeah.
it was really thrilling to write it and to see it performed. And I saw it performed in a lot of different places, not every place,
Yeah.
but it was fun. And again, it raised so much money to improve birth around the world.
Yeah,
So that was really
that's
nice.
incredible. Yes. Is it still being performed? Is it something that
A few places, one thing I love is that there have been a lot of creative projects in the last. I mean, now it's the first year of the play was 2006, so now we're, you know, many years away, 14 years later,
right?
15 years later.
Yeah.
So the good news is there's so much more out there. The people have started doing things that back then, and I still don't think there's really a play like my play. But
Yeah.
the issues, thankfully, have changed in different communities, and it's done still as it was just done in Houston the other weekend, a few weekends ago.
Mm.
So it is still being done,
Yeah.
but it was done so many places, and I think it had its moment. It was just, you know, it was something that was needed in the moment, and I didn't know until I heard the call when I
Yeah.
was resting.
Yeah. Wow. So beautiful. So how have you what have you noticed that your children have gleaned from your practice of yoga nidra?
Well, I think they've gleaned a lot, just having a mother that's very present for them,
Yeah.
that, isn't racking up my to-dos to the point where I'm holding a phone in one hand and in the, I mean, our household is a household of rest. So everything from, for example, before we eat dinner together. And when we eat dinner together, we ring a bell 3 times and we breathe.
Mm.
And, just little rest pieces have been put into our home
Yeah.
that make it a calm home and make it a home where hopefully, and I think my boys seem to be able to bring things um, to talk about their emotional lives
Mm.
in ways that I hope they have a fairly well developed feminine side.
Yeah.
They're not afraid of that in the world, especially raising two young men. I think
Yeah.
it's hugely important that they go into the world, not with this testosterone masculine. Women are taught this too,
Yeah.
you know, and so they've seen the opposite model to them. It's not, we don't sit around like we watch football. We're a family,
Yeah. Yeah.
but there is an unspokenness that is under the umbrella of rest
Mhm.
that we live by in
Yeah.
in the home, and rest keeps throughout my mothering. It kept informing me of how to show up fully, lovingly, When I'm rested, I'm really open to giving because I've received.
Yeah.
And when I was not rested, honestly, I wanted the kids just to get away. And sometimes I do anyway, I mean, obviously a parent. I mean,
Yeah.
there's sometimes it's like, okay, I've had enough, but they also know I have boundaries. They know mom rests. They know, they also have used it. My son, the older one, Jacob, who
Mm-hmm.
has learning differences. I mean, he's loved yoga nidra ever since he was young.
Mm.
So he used to practice when he was 10, and all of those years that was very hard for him.
Yeah.
He loved yoga nidra. And then he got to college, he practiced for a little while, and now he's a little like, yeah, I'm good. Sometimes on a hike, he'll go and he and I will practice yoga nidra, like we'll hike to the top of the mountain and then we'll lie down together. So
Oh,
he still likes to do that. Yeah. We
yeah.
always had family yoga nidra nights every Sunday night. And so
Mm.
we had, and my younger son, Aiden, he when unlike Jacob, when he was younger, he wasn't that into yoga nidra and rest. But on Sunday nights, he loved it. We get our pillows and blankets, and we'd all come together, and it was like a slumber party, a family slumber party. It was really, really nice. And I think it's one of the things that I always recommend to all families to have a rest night, have a
Yeah.
rest time.
Mm.
And whether it's putting on a yoga nidra or whether it's just having some soft music,
Yeah.
having just some instrumental music where you all sit there and dream together or close your eyes together is
Yeah.
really special. It was very bonding for us as a family. We knew it came and we made it a routine. Rest is part of our lifestyle. So now it's not like, should we rest? Should we not? Some days I don't rest every day necessarily, but it's part of the lifestyle. So it's just like, you know, just what we do.
Yeah.
My older son, or my younger son, now that he's in college, it's funny because he didn't necessarily practice a lot of yoga nidra except for family nights. But the first semester of college, text me, Mom, can you send me some of that yoga nidra? It's very stressful with exams in college and then he would text me back. I'm having so much great deep rest. It's amazing. And actually both of them started sharing it with their friends at college who were like, what are you doing? I need some
Wow.
of that.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of fun in that sense. And I believe though, we're planting the seeds. So meaning that they'll remember this, you know, this energy that they felt growing up. They'll remember this when they start their own families.
Yeah.
It's kind of like someone who told me years ago about she had an incredible birth. And I said to her, wow, wonderful. Or, well, I was, I think she was one of the 118 women, yes, that I
Mm.
interviewed. And I
Mm.
said, what influenced you? How do you think this happened? She said, well, actually, I had my first baby at 35, but when I was 19, a midwife came to speak at my college, and I'll never forget how she spoke about birth. And that made my decision when I was 30, whatever,
Uh-huh.
to, like that seed was planted by the
Right.
midwife.
Yeah.
And I do believe that we're planting these seeds in our home every day. And that we need to be really conscious as parents of what we're planting in
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
home.
And in a world that doesn't rest and that doesn't value rest, it's really revolutionary to have this practice of a pause, this practice of rest in your home, and that you do it, with your family. I think that's so beautiful. I want to try that with my girls, just a night of rest. And but it's so I think it's so crucial, particularly where we are right now in the way that we take, we're constantly being bombarded with information, and we just move at dizzying speeds. To have a practice that brings us back to our center is absolutely essential. So
Yeah, and just to tag on the transformational piece, my mother was a loving mother, but she was influenced by her mother, and the threat of negativity was very strong. My mother ate negativity like chocolate cake, misery, misery. Oh, isn't this a miserable day? Another bad day, another bad.
Yeah.
And through rest, that pre-programming really shifted with me.
Yes.
Doesn't mean I mean, I don't believe in overly I'm happy every day. We're not happy every day.
Right.
So, but what I mean is that I'm not eating misery like chocolate cake, which my mother and her mother did. So we have so many opportunities. And if we're raising children, wow, if we could actually stop some of these ancestral handed down,
Yes.
habits and programming, I think it's such a gift to our children and to
Absolutely.
all the generations that follow them.
Yeah. Well, we have to close, but how can people find you and your programs if you're still?
Yeah, so the best way is to go to daringtorest.com. I wrote the book Daring to Rest so that you can start and read the book, and it's written as a 40-day program. That 40-day program I mentioned, I personally did and then started teaching it to moms, so it's written that way. I do teach the 40-day program once a year, but it's usually at the beginning of every year. But if you get on the Daring to Rest mailing list, then you're going to find out when it is. You can join us. I also have a rested community that we're making rest a lifestyle. This is for women who want to dare to rest. And I do focus on women because I feel women, and particularly mothers, but we are agents of change. And when we find good medicine, we share it with others. So men will benefit, boys will benefit. Women are great at sharing good medicine.
So true. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being with us today and for this incredible work that you're doing and the message that you're bringing, which is so vital right now.
Thank you for inviting me.